Good morning. My name is Ralf Dazert. I'm head of intelligence at SuperYacht Times, and I'm here with Marijn de Waard, the founder and owner of SuperYacht Times. And today we'll be hosting a webinar about subject of selling superyachts digitally. And we have with us two seasoned, experienced brokers, if you will. It is Kevin Ralph of Worth Avenue Yachts and Alex Clarke of Denison. Gents, maybe I can give you each a turn to briefly introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining. As Rolf introduced me, I'm Marijn de Waard, founder of SuperYacht Times. The Palm Beach International Boat Show unfortunately didn't go ahead, but they had a great initiative to do a virtual boat show. And as part of the virtual boat show, we'll be hosting a seminar. And so thank you guys for joining. I think, Rolf, we can get started.
Sure, let's go for it. So maybe the kickoff question is then, well, right now we are seeing a shift towards, well, I'll call it virtual yacht marketing. So things like virtual boat tours, virtual boat shows. Maybe each one of you can detail what your company is doing in that area at the moment. So,
yeah, happy to start. You know, Denison we're already very digitally oriented, so we haven't really had to shift too much of what we've already been doing. One thing that we have increased quite a bit is doing our virtual tours for our listings. We now have over 125 virtual tours, and we've actually on the website done a specific button now or a drop-down link where you can actually connect to a page we have designated for virtual tours. And this is covering everything from our larger boats, down to some of the smaller boats that we have listed for sale. So we've really been covering every aspect of the market. So that way, if a buyer comes in, it's not just specific to a certain size range, it captures our full audience. We've done obviously increased that. And then already to begin with, we have a pretty expansive virtual, or I should say video walkthrough library with over 300 video walkthroughs. And the average of those are over 10 minutes long. So it's not a short little, just a highlight video of the boat. It's an actual walkthrough of the entire interior, exterior, and we combine that with video footage of the boat underway. We've got really great engagement with that. So that's something that we had in place before and we've just expanded upon. And it's really just to show our clients that, creatively we're thinking and outside of the box and trying to do everything we can to get attention to their listings in these obviously uncertain times.
okay, cool. Thank you. Kevin?
Yes, likewise, we're doing both virtual tours. We're also making appointments to do tours virtually as opposed to a virtual tour, as well as walkthrough tours. So again, a lot of digital content. We think that this is something that will carry on after this particular crisis may be over. Going forward, feel that more and more people will use this as an initial tool to weed out boats they either wish to see or don't wish to see. So we think this will be a paradigm shift in the way we do business.
So do you think that as a broker, you will have to travel less because you will do more initial screening of yachts from behind your screen with a client?
I think initially, certainly, a lot of people are going to be traveling less. And yes, I think we'll be traveling less, and more business will be conducted virtually. Before, when trying to see boats in far-flung places, we used to jump on a plane. Now everyone's realizing that you can actually do a walkthrough without having to jump on a plane. It may be better to see it in person. I don't think there's any substitute for clients actually going and seeing boats in person. But as an initial step, I think this saves a lot of time and energy.
Yeah, I think the broker will still initially travel quite a bit. Obviously we want to get the video tours in place and get the content out there. So what it does is it allows the client to basically shop from home, stop him from having to get on a plane like Ralph said and do a whirlwind tour in 2 or 3 days where you look at 6 different yachts. I think he can narrow down what might be, you know, his wish list, and then make a more educated decision moving forward on what boats he wants to see, rather than kind of flying blind and just relying on some photos to begin with.
Agreed.
Since you said you already had quite a few of these tours online, Alex, maybe you've already seen if it makes an impact on the amount of travel?
It does, especially with these video tours. You know, a lot of times we would have inquiries coming in from the MLS, you know, as our main source of leads.
Mm-hmm.
Now what we're seeing with a lot of these videos is I'll get a direct email from a client or a buyer who's seen it online, asking for information of the boat, saying, hey, we saw your video, it looks fantastic. Can you tell me more about it? And that's obviously reassuring that what we're doing is producing results. But we have gotten a lot of feedback from different sources rather than just your typical MLS. So yes, we are seeing results.
Okay, that is good. That is good. So would you say when you look at the people that are interested in the yachts, do you think you get a better quality audience with sort of live viewing of boats, or with this virtual tours? Like, what I'm trying to say, will you get more like just casual visitors to a show at a virtual show, or compared to real life?
I'll give you a quick example. You know, we did a video. I did a video not even 2 weeks ago, and that video on YouTube has now had, it's actually an 80 Sunreef power catamaran. We did a video walkthrough on board that. I think the video was 12 minutes long. We now have over 300,000 views in under 2 weeks. Most of those views are not obviously real buyers. The percentage I would think is very small. Normally it's just people who want to see nice boats. But the people that do take the time to reach out, you know, the percentage is very small, but the people that do reach out, I think are good quality. We're still capturing a decent audience of real buyers, but in reality, the majority of people looking at the videos are not, you know, they're just people who are making some interesting comments and, you know, just kind of looking at the pretty pictures of a big boat.
Yeah. Oh, well, you mean you have a wider audience, so you also have a chance that if just a small percentage of that is good people, then it might be bigger than what you might normally catch if you just have a boat in your life.
Very wealthy, you know, people contact us direct, you know, whether it's obviously millionaires, but also some people, you know, billionaires that have reached out to you direct that you've never heard from before, saying, hey, we saw your video, it looks great, tell us more. So I'm sure Ralph's had the same on their side as well.
Yeah, I think it's there's no substitute for face-to-face, in-person meetings and showing a boat. You can gauge a lot more from body reaction and everything else. But it's lead generation. It's another very valuable marketing tool, and shows a lot more obviously than static photographs ever can. So it's becoming critical to have that as part of your toolbox.
Yeah. Agree.
Okay.
And if we look at the the current state of the market, I think slowly parts of the world are opening up again, and like giving tours of talking people through a yacht is very well possible. But is it also possible to go to the next phase of trying to close the deal? Is that possible remotely or not really?
It's not as common. I think ultimately, a client is going to want to go and see a boat. I'm in the process of closing a boat remotely with a client that's never seen it. So it does happen. But I think, like Ralph said, the next step, and to backtrack a little bit, what I've seen is, I've probably got a dozen deals I'm juggling right now. I've closed a couple, but a lot of them are waiting to actually be able to have the travel restrictions lifted, so that buyer can take the next step, get on board, and make the final decision. So I don't think we're going to be able to skip that. For the most deals, there might be the occasional situation where, especially now, where somebody might want to move forward, and close on the boat and then be able to move him and his family or their family onto it, just to go and kind of do some social distancing. And they're willing to take that risk if we provide them the proper content of the boat ahead of time. Versus if they were doing it, before just by looking at a paper brochure or just pictures. But I think that's still going to remain a very important part of doing a closing. Most clients are going to want to get on board.
Yes, I would agree. I mean, I have in the past actually closed on boats without a client seeing the boat, which is highly unusual, but does happen even in normal times. But the vast majority of buyers are certainly going to want to see the boat physically, although again, I have well, it's been delayed and has been frozen. The boat's in Italy. Everyone agreed to extend the deal subject to travel bans being lifted. I actually did my first virtual survey, buyer survey sea trial, first survey sea trial for a buyer I've missed in over 30 years. So we did accomplish that, but now we're waiting until everything gets a little bit more normal in Europe. So having said that, we are showing boats in the States, and I've been out showing boats the last 10 days to clients.
Okay, so there is it certainly helps the virtual yacht marketing to get a bigger audience at the beginning and get some more leads, but at this point in time, it is still pretty much, well, not impossible, but difficult to actually finalize the deal without actually having people there.
Yes, I would say that's true for the most part. We do have a letter of intent on a new build in Europe that's partially in build, and that seems to be proceeding. And I don't think at this stage that the client is going to insist on seeing the boat. He's seen the sister ship. We're doing virtual walkthroughs and have someone on the ground in Europe that can physically be there and inspect the vessel on behalf of the potential buyer. But so that may actually be totally virtual, but I think that will be the rarity.
Yeah, I think a new build is probably a little bit easier to close virtually than a brokerage boat, just because obviously if it's an older boat, you want to see how it's been taken care of. You know, I personally closed on a new build. Also in Europe, I believe it was last week, from the start of the client contacting us to the completion of the signed letter of intent with a multi-million-dollar non-refundable deposit was under 10 days.
Wow.
And the client had seen the sister ship, just like Ralph said, so he was familiar with it. We were able to provide video and you know, pictures of the sister ship, and it went extremely fast. And much in part is because of the you know, we worked with the Italian design firm who was able to provide some interior renderings of what they proposed, and again, went extremely fast. And that boat will be delivered later this year, as it's already under construction.
I mean, that's a very positive thing to hear right now, because of course at SuperYacht Times we also see that deals seem to be a bit slower. Is it like more the exception to the rule at the moment that you have a deal like that?
I've never seen something like that happen before. And that was an American client, an existing yacht owner who wanted to go bigger. We obviously negotiated a very favorable deal in his part. And that's what the client was looking for. He had looked at a couple of other options, you know, without me, with, you know, just kind of going direct. And the flexibility in the yard was able to get him to commit very quickly, and he did. So I think it's a combination of, because I think we find a lot of people right now and are looking for good values. I think the market values are still holding strong. It's nothing like 2008 where you're seeing huge drop-offs or big discrepancies with the same model of boat, some being priced high, some being priced low. I think everything's pretty consistent. You might see a little bit of flexibility in the value of the boats, maybe an additional 10 to 15%. But in this case, the client was specifically looking for a good deal, and we were able to do that.
And besides selling yachts, of course, there is also listing new yachts for sale.
Yep.
Do you think a lot of clients are now waiting to list their boat because it's hard to do photos, to inspect, to write good specifications, all these things? So do you think more yachts will be listed when the world opens up again?
After you, Ralph, go ahead.
Yeah, I think some clients are waiting to see what is going to unfold. I think there are a lot of buyers that think the world is going to be awash in boats for 50 cents on the dollar. I do not think that that's going to materialize. There may be a few clients that have to sell their boats, but I think they will probably be in the minority. So, like Alex, at the moment, I don't believe we're going to have a massive reduction in the selling values and selling prices. So time will tell, but there's definitely a lack of inventory. We had that going into this situation. It's very evident now that there is a dearth of late model boats on the market.
Yep.
Okay.
I would agree. Yep. I think once again, everything's still kind of up in the air, but I think once, the health concern goes down, we don't get a second wave, travel restrictions are lifted. I have a lot of clients that are kind of in that holding phase. And once those restrictions are lifted, they're ready to travel and move forward. So I see, again, if everything goes positively, I see a very active third and fourth quarter. I think for our industry, it's going to be important that you have the Cannes and the Monaco show in Europe leading into Fort Lauderdale. I think that would encourage buyers. I think those are going to be very active shows this year. So once the restrictions drop, I think clients are going to travel, deals are going to happen. And I think those deals that have been kind of on standby are going to happen faster than if you're just starting fresh on a typical 30-day closing period. I think they're going to move faster because all the due diligence has been done now.
So, but even if you have a very active third and fourth quarter, surely that wouldn't make up for whatever you're losing right now. Or do you think there's so much pent up demand that it could still kind of make a good year?
I think it still could be a good year. My year is already better than last year, and obviously there's the new build to thank for some of that. But we're starting to see an increase the past couple weeks. I think last week we had 10 closings. The week before that we had 9. So we're starting to see, and again, these are not all larger boats, but in general, we're starting to see an increase in closings, which is obviously encouraging. And hopefully, I think as at least in America, as we start to open up, I think we're going to see a lot of American buyers starting to close on deals relatively soon.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely been an up ramp in interest, and interestingly enough, some boats that have recently come on the market here in the US have gone under contract pretty quickly, including a 112-foot burger that came on the market about 3 weeks ago. Has already gone under contract and surveyed and sea trial. There's another boat, 50 plus meters, likewise came on the market less than 2 months ago in the middle of this, and I believe that's also under contract. So it's interesting to see that there is still pretty strong demand, certainly for good boats.
And do you see that clients in US or in Florida are looking more locally now to boats instead of all over the world because they might still be able to visit the boat in Florida?
Yes, absolutely. And usually for this time of year, because of a lockdown everywhere, I mean, there's virtually anything, nothing open, including the Bahamas. There's a lot of boats, there's a lot of hardware that's parked here in Southeast Florida at the moment. So actually, and some of those have been forced to go into the foreign trade zones. Yeah. Because they've expired and can't get out and can't renew their cruising permits, et cetera, or boat show bonds. So they're going into the free zones and are being shown. So there's a lot of inventory here right now that wouldn't normally be this time of year. They would have already left for the Med.
Yeah, I think that exactly what Ralph said. I think to expand on it, I think boats that were typically going to be medbound are going to be hunkering down here and staying locally. Jim Steele, who does a lot of our work down here with Steel Towing, has kind of a really good pulse on the activity on the market, and he's saying the amount of boats being loaded to go over to the Med is over 80% down. And so for us here, it's great because the inventory stays locally. Like Ralph said, the free trade zones have been packed. Essentially, boat show bonds, you have 2 options when your boat show bonds revoked, or so you can clear out and clear back in, a problem with that is you can't clear out because there's nowhere that's open. So you can't go to the Bahamas and then come back with your bond lifted, or you pay duty on it. And then the third option is you go into the free trade zone. So right now, I think the free trade zones, Ralph, is probably on maximum capacity. You know, those slips are in high demand. And once those non-US duty paid boats are in those free trade zones, it's fair game. And, you know, I mean, you're up in Palm Beach. I believe Rybovich has been stacked, you know, not just are they full, but they're stacked, you know, stacked deep in their marina with boats. We're seeing Lauderdale Marine Center. They're at capacity right now. So a lot of these larger boats are not going to the Med anymore. They're going to take advantage of the time, either do work on board or stay in the free trade zone. And that's good for us here.
Because what is the expectation? Is it also on your end of the Atlantic that also the sort of summer or the charter season that is over for the foreseeable future, I think?
I mean, I was talking to Ralph's colleague the other day. I did a showing with sorry, not with Ralph's colleague, but with Mark Elliott, sorry, who we all know well. And he was saying he's still planning on going up to Newport. He's still going to be up there. The docks are still full there. So I think you're still going to see a New England season. I don't think the charter market's going to be as active. But I think a lot of people who are yacht owners are going to be enjoying New England.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually wrote 7 charter contracts last week. Interestingly enough, a couple of those were in Greece for August, but the rest of them were New England and the Bahamas later on in the year. So and one of those was, or actually 2 of those, on a 55 meter that normally goes to the Med and is staying on this side of the pond. And we're actually writing charters on that locally.
Okay, so still some deals. Because do you think also maybe some owners will put their yacht up for sale now that they basically had to say goodbye to their charter income for a considerable period of time? I mean, they might not be willing to support the boat any longer.
I think you're going to see that on occasion, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yes, I think there's going to be some downward pressure because people are used to having the income and the offset from charter. And in fact, I think we've already seen that with crew layoffs, interestingly enough, on boats across the board, even some of the very large boats. I've heard of a lot of crew being let go, which is kind of surprising.
And what I was thinking, when you look at your companies, and you probably can't give details, but is there for the future, will the investment in virtual yacht marketing, do you think it will be further stepped up or kept the same, or reduced again once the market turns back to normal? What do you think?
We've implemented our own virtual boat show, and we've been doing it rather frequently. I believe we've done almost 4 weeks in a row now, and each one's been very successful. So I think we will continue to do it. I don't think we'll do it as often, but I think we are definitely going to make it.
Yeah, I think it's virtual tours and virtual marketing will become the new normal. I think there will be more and more companies will have to do it as it becomes more common practice across the board.
And it could also maybe be interesting from a cost perspective for brokerage companies, I suppose, to do more virtual yacht marketing.
Yeah. The virtual tours are you know, not a difficult thing to do. You know, you can kind of ramp those up pretty quickly. The video tours, obviously, it takes time for us, you know, for a broker and the video crew to get there and actually do it, or the independent crew to go do it. I think it's going to make the brokers more active. So instead of just sitting behind a desk, which I think some brokers do, I think this is going to, you know, you're going to want to get out there, work harder on behalf of your client, you know, whether that's doing a FaceTime walkthrough, like what Ralph said, or, I mean, like Ralph said, doing a virtual survey and sea trial. So I think you're going to want to, you know, show maybe a buyer or a client's going to expect more out of the broker, being proactive. But I think all of them combined is going to lead to a new normal in the industry for sure.
Okay, so that's interesting. You expect it to remain in place significantly. Yeah. You too as
And
well?
what kind of, oh, sorry.
Sorry, carry on. Sorry.
No, I'm after you.
Again, I think that I certainly wouldn't expect to be doing too many buyers survey sea trials remotely. I would most definitely have preferred to have been there, but obviously couldn't travel to Italy to accomplish it. But from a marketing perspective, initial marketing, certainly virtual tours and walkthroughs will become the norm.
Okay.
And if we are here in the virtual Palm Beach Boat Show, what advice would you give a digital buyer right now?
Advice to a digital buyer.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it a good time to buy? How should you approach it? What should you do?
I think it's, again, you do your typical due diligence right now. You would basically take the information that you would typically find on a boat, and then I think double check and confirm that the condition of the vessel, which I think you can do more so virtually with the information that's added, and just take that information and continue to make a more educated decision moving forward. But I don't think the decision-making process is going to be any different. I think the information that they're going to be processing is going to be more detailed. So it'll allow the buyer to make a more educated decision easier on his own, rather than having to possibly get on that plane. But I think the process is still going to remain the same.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. You're going to be better informed, and you're going to have more information at hand with video and virtual tours, especially, as I say, we're taking an appointment so that you can actually get with the listing broker and he can walk you through it. And hey, can you have a look in the galley or whatever it may be, so you can see it in real time. But I don't think there's any substitute for actually being there on the boat. So again, it may be used to weed down the number of boats that a client may eventually wish to see. But for the vast majority of buyers, they're going to want to see the boat in person.
Okay.
Yep.
I have nothing further anymore. You have any questions, man?
No, very good. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yes,
Pleasure.
thank you.
And love what you guys are doing too. I think these panels are extremely interesting. I think there's a refit one coming up. So,
Yes.
and I think the following, I don't know if any of us really expected to have the numbers that we're seeing on our video boat shows on our Denison platform alone. And then I think the first one I chimed in to watch with you guys, there was almost 500 people on it. So from all over the world. And I think that's also something we're going to see in the industry too, where I love the connectivity that not just we're having with brokers and panels, but also with the builders, the naval architects. I really think that this is something that's going to move forward. And I think it's something that pulls the industry together even more so.
Yeah,
absolutely agree. I think the reach, and as all of us realize that you can have incredible reach. Now the fact that everyone's locked up at home obviously makes it a little easier rather than running around like we normally are. But I think if we can take the time and the effort to carry this on, and what you guys are doing makes a lot of sense, because you can get a huge audience that potentially even boat shows. You don't have the audience that's in front of you that you do for 45 minutes on the webinars that you're doing.
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And we hope to see you guys soon in real life again.
Yes.
Okay.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
All the best. Bye.